Billy Napier's job security or lack thereof is the biggest storyline for the Florida Gators in 2024. Let's talk about it here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And like I said, today, or for really the season, Billy Napier's job security, or lack thereof, is the biggest story. It's what people were talking about before last season even ended of, is it time to cut ties? Which the answer is no, it wasn't time to cut ties. However, I think for most Gators fans, myself included, until Billy Napier proves otherwise, he belongs on the hot seat. And I say belongs on because it's really, will the athletic department, will the boosters, the AAU, whoever it may be, will they actually cut ties? Who's to say? And I will say this because I realize that every time I talk about this, people leave the comments of like, you just hate Billy. I don't hate Billy. In fact, I do like Billy. I don't know if he's good enough for the program right now. And that's kind of where I stand of, I don't know if he's good enough, but I do like him. And I do hope he turns it around. Like, I want Billy Napier to win games. I want Billy Napier to win games at Florida. I'm not the type where I just want him gone. I don't care. I'm fully on board with, I want him to win games. However, when we look at really the first 2 years, and I think a bigger point of that second year, like put more weight in that second year because that was more of his players, more of he got to feel what the SEC was like in year one in 2022. And then he made whatever adjustments he made or didn't make, and then he ran into the 2023 season. And then the 2023 season happened. So if we look at those 2 years, I have to say, when we talk about how he needs to win games, this is an incredibly tough schedule. There's been very little put on the field so far to sell me that he's going to do that. And that's my biggest hesitation as to projecting Billy Napier long-term at Florida, is that a big part of being here is winning football games, getting top recruiting classes. And he had one of the top recruiting classes for this cycle. And then it fell apart. And you look at last year, he had bowl eligibility in his hand, and he lost it. And by that, I'm particularly specifically talking about the Arkansas game. I'm not talking about going on the road to number 9 Missouri and losing on a last-second field goal, or last minute, I guess. It was like 30 seconds left. I'm not talking about losing to Florida State in Gainesville because you were on your backup quarterback. They were on their backup, but you were on your backup as well. I'm talking about Arkansas, where you had a 39-yard field goal available. Trey Smack, your kicker, had not missed under 40 the entire year. Then you get the illegal substitution penalty for your own fault, Bill. You lose 5 yards, comes a 44-yard field goal, he misses it, and then you lose the game in overtime. That's entirely on Billy. So that's what I say when I say there haven't been enough good things to see on the field to sell me that he can get this done this year. I do think that the team's better from last year. I think you got better almost across the board. I think you improved your offensive line. Even with the guys that you lost, I think you improved tackle. You've got Jake Slaughter coming back for another year at center. Those are the 3 most important positions. I loved Richie Leonard at guard, but it's guard. If you improve tackle and center, you've improved. Receiver, you lost Ricky. You got a lot of young guys that we're going to see step up. Running back, you lost Trevor. Got a lot of young guys we're going to see step up. You got Graham Mertz in year 2, which is the biggest boost than any other position. Having Graham Mertz in year 2 is huge. A starting quarterback coming back for a second year in your system is an exponential advantage that you'll have over a lot of people, a lot of teams. And that's huge for Florida to win games. And I think when we talk about will Billy Napier even make it through the year, I think, yeah. I think Billy Napier will get the year unless things go horribly south. And by horribly south, I mean that you go into your second bye week 4-3. I think if you go into your second bye week 4-3, that's really bad considering the start of your schedule. Not too tough. It's that back 5 that's, and really you can include 6 if you think Kentucky's going to be good this year. That's going to be the tough part. And hell, if you want to include Tennessee, sure, I'll give you that. But even then, those are 2 games that you can talk about losing this year. I'm not sold on the Tennessee one, or Kentucky really, but we'll see how that one goes. But I think Billy Napier, you have to win 6 games. And if you go into that second bye week with 4 wins, I don't know if you're winning 2 of those. Then you got Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. 2 of those games are on the road, 2 are at home, one's at the neutral site being Georgia. And it's not that I don't think you can win those games. I think LSU is going to have a drop-off. I think Florida State's going to have a pretty big drop-off. I think Texas is probably going to be a bit better because they've got Quinn Ewers coming back. That's a big part. Ole Miss, Jackson Dart coming back. Georgia's got a ton of guys coming back. But I do think that if you're 4-3 at that time, you're probably not good enough to win LSU and Florida State games. Because if you're 4-3, that means you're pretty damn bad this year. So I think that when we look at this, and 6 wins is what you need to save your job. I think if Billy Napier wins 6 games, he's safe. I think 5 wins, we're in the gray area of, well, did the team really progress? Is the recruiting class looking good? And are we actually going to keep it this time? Because last year, we also knew that Amaris Williams was gone way before signing day. It just tanked the rating on signing day. 4 wins, get the hell out. As simple as that. 5 wins, again, I think you're in the gray area. I think you need to have 5 wins, but significantly improved product on field in order to keep your job. And 6 wins, you keep your job. I don't know if Florida's going to get that. Again, a lot of that we'll know pretty early on. So I think that for Billy Napier's job security, we'll see. Personally, again, I want him to win games. Because there's 2 outcomes here that I stand on. If Billy Napier figures things out and wins games, then that means he's improving. He's figuring things out, winning games, building the program. I'm sold on the culture already. I will say, the culture for me is a big thing that's already handled. It's not one of my questions. You lost Princely, you lost Trevor Etienne, but I've spoken to a lot of players on that roster right now and players that have left that roster. And out of all the complaints, none of them have been culture. Out of all the guys that have left, none of them have told me it's Napier. We've heard strength and conditioning. We've heard development from the position coaches. We've heard those. I've heard those. I haven't heard a single person say a bad thing about Napier. And I've heard players tell me directly, I just hope that they give him the time that he needs. Players are like, oh man, I don't know if he's going to get the time he needs. And I'm not saying that with time he'll work out. I am saying that that's one thing that I don't have a question of is the culture that he's got off field in Gainesville. You just need to produce on field because that's a pretty damn important part. So you either win football games, turn it around. You've already got the good culture. You've got that foundation. Turn it around and you find success, and I'm happy. He doesn't turn it around, probably gets canned. Hopefully see some foundational change with the UAA and see an improved program in Gainesville. But that's kind of where I stand. I want Billy Napier to win. I want Billy Napier to succeed because that means that Florida's winning and Florida's succeeding. Right now, though, I have not seen enough to make me truly believe it's going to happen. And I could just sit here and go, oh, yeah, I'm just going to trust the process. That's tough for me. So again, until he proves otherwise, he belongs on the hot seat. We could talk more about, contract buyout and what that may mean. But until otherwise, Billy Napier belongs to be on the hot seat until he, wins games, maybe makes another bowl game, maybe wins that one. Who's to say? But we do have more to talk about, like the DJ Lagway. Before we talk about DJ, I do want to get a quick word from eBay Motors. With passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Remember that eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. And for me, I think the second biggest storyline is about DJ Lagway, because DJ Lagway was, a massive selling point for Billy Napier, really, and obviously Joe Hamilton, who now has left to Texas A&M, which is a killer of a loss. And if DJ Lagway ever hits the portal, I'm going to assume Texas A&M is the heavy favorite early on. But for DJ Lagway, it's, will he make an impact? What kind of impact will he have? Will he help the offense? I'm torn on it, genuinely. I spoke the other day, I think it was the Monday or Tuesday show, about the impact freshmen. And I had LJ McCray at number 1, had Kanan Daniels at number 2, and Jere Hawkins was number 3. And again, there's a lot of guys you could throw in there. I didn't have Lagway on there, and I said I wouldn't have him on there, and people were annoyed because I didn't have him, because he was the number 3 recruit in the country last year. He was the number 1 quarterback in the country last year. He's the best thing since sliced bread, if we're talking about that. But comes down to it, he's still a true freshman. And with this being NFL Combine Week, you get to talk to head coaches, GMs. They all do the interviews, and the interviews go all over social media. And with Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, there was a quote that came out about him talking about getting rookie quarterbacks from college up to speed at the NFL level. And Mike McDaniel was basically like, hey, just because you're good at algebra, does that mean you're good at calculus? No, because there's steps to it. And that's what I'm thinking of when I think of any true freshman, but especially at quarterback. It's just because you're good at algebra, playing quarterback at the high school level, then Willis, Texas, where a lot of it was, in fact, DJ Lagway playing hero ball. Like he just had to. He's behind a terrible offensive line. And I get it. His mobility helps him there. However, when we talk about developing as a quarterback, we don't want you to have to play hero ball. So that's a big part of it. You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. And just evolving to the scheme, learning offensive football. It's very rare to find a true freshman who makes any significant impact at the quarterback position. And yes, DJ Lagway, I do believe, is pretty damn special. However, going from high school to the SEC is a pretty big leap. I don't care what high school you went to. It's a pretty big leap. 2, you don't need him to do a lot this year. Like, can we talk about that? Everybody talks about, oh, DJ Lagway should play. DJ Lagway should do this. And I'm okay with, and I think he can do the rotating quarterback gig. I'm not saying Chris Leak, Tim Tebow, but I don't think he'd be more than that. I think you could see a little bit of like the Kyle Trask, Emory Jones rotation more than Chris Leak, Tim Tebow. Like, I don't think that we need to be like, oh, a huge part of the offense. Give me short yardage, just a general change of pace against a team that is over aggressive and struggles against the option. You need a Hail Mary, put him in there because he's got a cannon, red zone, low red zone. So within the 5-yard line, basically on the goal line. Sure, you could sell me on all of that. But as far as Graham gets 3 drives and DJ gets 1, I don't see something like that happening. I don't see him being a major contributor to the offense because you don't need that. Look, I'm not saying that Graham Mertz is a fantastic quarterback. I'm not saying he's a Heisman candidate. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying he's good enough where you don't really need to have the conversation of, do we have the battle? And I know that I heard someone in a Twitter space the other day go like, "Oh, Graham Mertz is coming off an injury, broken collarbone. He's not coming off a torn ACL, Achilles, bicep, pec, none of that. It's a broken collarbone. Like, he'll be fine." So I do think that Graham is good enough to justify removing DJ Lagway from the conversation. You don't need to have the conversation of, what do you do at quarterback this year? Like, Graham Mertz, when he came over from Wisconsin, was not someone that I was sold on in any way, shape, or form. I was like, yeah, he'll be better than he was at Wisconsin, but like, he's not going to be good still. And he ended up being pretty good. He did. He ended up being pretty good. I have no problem admitting where I'm wrong and when I'm wrong. But I will still say, what Graham did wasn't exceptional, but it got the offense moving. He was accurate. He was on time most of the time. All 3 of his picks were tipped by receivers. And like, that was a big thing when he came over, was people saying, oh, he's had quite a few picks. That's going to be really bad for him. Like, he's going to throw a ton at the SEC level. And he got significantly better. Again, all 3 of his picks hit a receiver in the hands. If I'm not mistaken, 2 of them hit Arliss Boardingham in the hands. 1 hit Ricky in the chest / shoulder. So, yeah, I think Graham is good enough for your offense to say, hey, we don't need DJ Lagway to come in. Could be cool to do every now and then. And I'm not saying that you can't do that again. But I don't see the need for it. And honestly, I don't know why you would force DJ Lagway. Like, yeah, he's great. He's a great recruit, but he's still a true freshman quarterback. Let's not act like those are guaranteed to work out. And also, what DJ Lagway did was impressive with Willis. It really was. A lot of it was hero ball. And Billy Napier is the kind of quarterback where he wants you to be able to play hero ball, but he doesn't want you to instinctually play hero ball. He wants you to be able to work in rhythm, in function, which is ironic considering how his offenses are very rarely in rhythm. But he wants you to be able to work in rhythm, in function, in structure before you just start scrambling at the side of pressure. And also, if we're going to be honest, there is no reason to put a true freshman quarterback behind the offensive line until they prove as an offensive line that they can pass protect. Okay, and I understand that sounds counterintuitive by going, oh yeah, hero ball, bad offensive line, like those go hand in hand. You don't want your quarterback to need to run for their lives. I think everyone can agree with that one. We do also have to talk about the defense here, because I do think that's going to be a massive part about circling back to Billy Napier's job security. If the defense, like will the Florida Gators finally, for the first time under Billy Napier, field a competent defense in 2024? Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. By the way, I want to say I'm a big Cade Cunningham fan. He started scoring a lot more lately, and it actually hurts me because I was just like, oh yeah, his assists are free night in, night out. And now that he's scoring a lot more, I'm like, all right, I'll shift to points and assists, I guess. But right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams. Like I bet on Cade, who's one of my favorite NBA players. I bet on Bradley Beal, who's one of my favorite NBA players when he's healthy, which is very rare. better than the New York Knicks, which thank goodness for Jalen Brunson, even though Josh Hart's my favorite Knick to bet on. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockdown and shoot your shot. Remember that FanDuel is an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. To wrap up today's show, we are indeed talking about this defense, which, if you've listened in the, almost 3 years that I've been doing this show now, you would know that I'm a scheme guy and I'm a defense guy. And for me, I think that when we start talking about where this defense has improved, it's the middle of the field more than anything else. Like looking at the Florida Gators defense from 2023, and by middle of the field, I mean basically from your two ends up. So not including your slot, not including your corners, but look at your jack and your F and go up the field that way. I think that your jack itself got worse because Princely left, and I don't think that you could say there's anybody proven on the roster that's better than him. And if you do, you're lying to yourself and you've lost merit. But I think your jack spot itself got worse, but I think your entire defensive line as a unit got better. Getting Cam Jackson back for year 2 is huge. Year 2 in Gainesville is huge. He could have gone to the NFL, and I thought he was gone to the NFL. So getting him back is huge. Fantastic nose tackle. One of those pure nose tackles. You're like, all right, you're going to be in the NFL. You're never going to be a superstar. You're going to be damn good at what you do. You look at bringing in Joey Slackman from Penn. Shout out Comac. But bringing in Joey Slackman from Penn, he allows Caleb Banks to either move to second string or Joey Slackman goes to the F and Caleb Banks plays 3 tech. And then you've got year 2 under Caleb Banks, who's your second most productive pass rusher last year. And you got Joey Slackman coming in at the F spot, which I'm fine with. I'd prefer we get Cam Jackson at the nose, Joey Slackman at the 3 tech, and then we have Kelby Collins at the F with TJ Searcy at the jack. That's a better, for me at least, that's a better 4-man front than you had last year. And then you also look at the depth there, where you have Caleb Banks moving down to second string, Tyreek Sapp down to the second string. You're moving starters from last year to your depth this year because you improved at that position over them. You feel pretty good about that. Linebacker, Shamar James is back for another year as a starter. You brought in Pup Howard from South Carolina, elite linebacker at a high school, pretty good rotational player with South Carolina last year. Probably going to be your starter this year in year 2 in college, where again, like the fact that he played as a true freshman last year is huge because it's very rare for a true freshman linebacker at the SEC level to make a big impact. Like it's hard to play early on, and Pup Howard did it. And now he's coming to Gainesville to do it as a true sophomore, year of experience under his belt, probably going to be starting. Behind them, Derek Wingo, Manny Nunnery, Jaden Robinson. You brought in Miles Graham and Aaron Childs as 2 very high-ranked linebackers in the recruiting class. Not sure how much of an impact they make for the same reason I was surprised Pup Howard made one last year, but it's possible. Your linebacker room went from pretty damn bad to pretty damn good this year. Safeties, Jordan Castell in year 2, Bryce Thornton in year 2. You got Asa Turner from Washington. You got DJ Douglas from Tulane, who, again, could play nickel or safety, but I do think that he'll play a bit of both. You have Trequise Bridges from Oregon moving back to his natural safety spot, already experienced in the defense because, again, Oregon runs a very similar defensive system. You're looking at improvement across the board in the interior. Corners, still a big question. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, they're good now. But I do think that when you talk about corner production, we also have to talk about the pass rush and the defensive line because they're kind of married together. Like, your corners, doesn't matter how good they are. If you're getting no pass rush, guys are going to be open downfield. Guys are going to get open eventually because playing corner is incredibly difficult. You have bad corners. Your pass rush doesn't matter if the QB can just chuck it up. And we saw both last year for Gainesville. Like in Gainesville, we saw both. We saw that South Carolina game is always one that I'm going to talk to where I say the pressure got in immediately and Spencer Rattler just chucked it downfield. And Xavier Legette was there won the jump ball. Like, hey, you covered him. Congrats. He still mossed you. So it doesn't matter if your corners aren't good enough. And then you can count any number of times when Florida didn't blitz and didn't generate a pass rush. And there was a big play from that. Or you could just watch the LSU game and watch it happen over and over and over and over again. As they gave up, 52 points? Yikes. So there were plenty of instances where you saw things that were married not working out, but now you've improved that pass rush a lot, where it's not just one guy or nobody. It's, we've sacrificed having the best player there, but now we've got better players everywhere else, and we're going to generate more of an overall pass rush, and our coverage is going to benefit because of that. And also improve safety play. They'll help over the top more. They'll be able to do that with more experience and more talent there. So you've improved the middle of the field. And then we're also going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is Ron Roberts. Ron Roberts has 30 years of coaching experience. Like, you have one of the youngest defensive staffs in Power 4 football. You might have the youngest. Austin Armstrong's about 30. Gerald Chapman's very young. Mike Peterson's very young. Will Harris is very young. And then you brought in Ron Roberts with 30 plus years of experience. He's been coaching longer than Austin Armstrong's been alive. That's how long he's been coaching. And he is considered a pioneer of this modern style of defense. He's got that in his coaching tree. I understand it's Patrick Toney and Austin Armstrong is part of it. And for Florida Gators fans, that makes Ron Roberts the boogeyman. However, Ron Roberts' coaching tree also includes Dave Aranda, one of the most well-respected defensive minds in football. And it includes everybody from under Dave Aranda. It includes Pete Golding, defensive coordinator now at Ole Miss, was at Bama. Yeah, pretty good. Some pretty good assistants. So if you want to talk about two bad ones, we could talk about two fantastic ones. And also, jury's still out on both Patrick Toney and Austin Armstrong, just because your experience personally wasn't good. Just want to say that one. So Ron Roberts' impact will be huge, because I do think that, Austin Armstrong may be a bit too big for his britches during the 2023 season in the SEC. But now he's got a head coach of the defense with him, where Austin Armstrong still calls plays, but Ron Roberts is the head coach of the defense. So he's going to run that defense. He's going to help everybody get up to speed, pick it up, and he'll help Austin Armstrong figure out the issues that weren't working. Get more creative, get less predictable, get more, effective, and improve a defense that, for the first time in 3 years, is going into a season with a returning defensive coordinator. That's pretty damn big for a defense. Like that system continuity, sure, going from Patrick Toney to Austin Armstrong's pretty similar defensive system. However, different actual play calls, more aggressive defensive front. Now you get that back. You get Austin Armstrong with Ron Roberts paired up again. And we're talking about, we're cooking, basically. That's what we're doing. We're cooking on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that, I think you get a competent defense this year. I'm not saying it's going to be top 10, but I think you get a significantly improved defense to one that, which I know last year was one of the worst defenses in college football. I think that you're getting, at worst, top 40 defense this year from the Florida Gators. It's a massive jump that's going to win you some more games. That itself should win you some more games. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, talk more Florida Gators. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33. And as always, I will see you all next time.